Gonna make our way downtown for a little bit and also up into Punchbowl Crater. Then we're gonna make our way out to Pearl Harbor for your USS Arizona Memorial Program Tour. You're on what's called the Arizona City and Punchbowl Tour today. You're on, waiting for it to go to Disneyland. You're on the wrong bus.
Yeah.
Anyways, welcome El Komamai. If this is your first time to Hawaii, that means welcome to the islands here. If you come back a second time, we'll call you local. You come back a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time back, we'll call you filthy rich. Anyways, welcome to the islands here. A few things I want to go over what to expect on your tour for today. First of all, our bus number is 152. Everybody say, or 151. Everybody say 151. 151. My name is? Right. All right. Everybody say the number 75. 75. If you miss me in the bus, it's a 75 fare back to Waikiki. I'm not gonna leave anybody behind. We're not gonna leave anybody behind. I'll be leading you and guiding you throughout the whole your whole tour today. So bear with me on that. All right, a few things I want to go over before what to expect before I go into the narration about the little bit about Hawaii and also the attack of Pearl Harbor and what began the conflict and also the part of the aftermath of the attack of Pearl Harbor where you're going out to today. First of all, you're welcome to eat and drink on board the bus. I do have a trash can right behind my seat here. At some of the places that we go, there is no restroom, so we do have a working restroom on the back of the bus. Let you know about that. All right. Also, out at Pearl Harbor, there's a no bag policy out here at Pearl Harbor. No backpacks, no benny packs, no any kind of bags allowed inside the facility. The reason for that, you're stepping on the active Navy base. It's part of the United States Naval installation, and there's no bags allowed. Now, if you go to the gift shop and they put your souvenirs in a bag that come out, that's fine. But when they're talking about no bags going in inside the facility right there, no strap-on purses. What you can take is your cell phones, iPads. If you have a medical condition and you have a medical bag, that's fine. You've got to show the park ranger out there that it is a medical bag, but otherwise than that, no bags allowed upon the bus here. In the Pearl Harbor Visitor Center. Now you're welcome to keep your bags on the bus. We don't need to go. Nobody will mess with our bus today, and I'll be with the bus also. But if you do not feel comfortable with that, there is a bag storage out there. It does cost $6 plus tax. Just be sure to pick it up when we leave out at Pearl Harbor. Come back to your hotels here. All right, that's a no bag policy. Now, next thing I want to let you to be aware of, this is a time-sensitive tour, meaning I will assign the time to come back to the bus, and I would like to ask of you to be aware of your time and make it back to the bus on time. The reason for that, I'll assign the time to come back to the bus. 5 minutes does not seem like a long time for somebody unless you're waiting for somebody. So please help me with that. Make sure you're back to the bus at the assigned time. Shouldn't be that bad with 25 people as opposed to 40, 50 people trying to get back at the bus at the same time. So please help me with that. Make sure, be aware of your time and make it back to the bus on time so we can move smoothly from one event to the other without any hesitation. And if you are late, I do have a particular set of skills that I've acquired over the term of my career that make me a nightmare for people like you that are late. I will come look for you. I will find you, and I'll bring you back to the bus. I'm only kidding about that, but anyways, please help me make sure you be back to the bus on time. All right, on to the narration of the attack, a little bit about Hawaii first, and if you have any reasonable questions, I'll try to answer best of my knowledge. Unreasonable questions will cost you $5. All right. Hawaii, part of an archipelago of islands made up of 130 plus islands. Only 8 of the islands make up the state and county of Hawaii. Only 8 of the islands are populated. The estimated population of all of Hawaii is approximately 1.4 million people. And we hit a milestone a couple months ago. The population on Oahu alone is 1 million people. So majority of the it fits this island's nickname, the gathering place, really well. Each and every island has a specific, like a flavor, so to speak. The 8 islands, Hawaiian archipelago is part of the what's called the Pacific Rim of Fire. It almost reaches up to the Alaskan Aleutian Islands and Pacific Rim of Fire of volcano. The youngest island of all the islands would be the Big Island. If you get a chance to go see Haleakala and also Mauna Loa. It is also the tallest island, about 13,000 feet above sea level. Next we have Maui. If you get the chance to go to Maui, that's called the Valley Isle, where you fly in between Haleakala and also the mountains there. Haleakala is approximately about 10,000 feet above sea level. There's 2 islands right next to Maui. One is Lanai, the other is a smaller island where the United States Armed Forces practices their field exercises and artillery. I don't even mention the name of that one, but the next one after the red is Lanai, and is owned by the billionaire Mr. Larry Ellison, and he owns 98% of Lanai. The other 2% is the resorts on the island, but he basically owns the whole island there. Right beside Oahu and Maui here is the island of Molokai, which is kind of really barren. If you fly past it, you'll see it's really kind of like a long barren island. To the west of this island will be Kauai. It's called the Garden Isle. Then we have the small private Hawaiian island called Niihau. Those are the 8 islands that make up the state county of Hawaii. At one point in time, from when the Polynesian people first arrived at this island discovery, they saw the sprouting water, and they called it Waikiki. Now, today, when you think of Waikiki, you say, I'm going to go on vacation, stay in Waikiki. Waikiki is made up of 76 hotels, 45 condominiums, and you can take a walk for me and report back to me tomorrow morning at this specific time and count the 40 plus ABC stores. The ABC stores stand for different things. People have given them always bring cash, always bring credit, all blocks covered, bases covered. But actually means Aloha brings customers, and that's what the ABC stands for here in the islands. It's owned by a family of doctors. The doctors do not profit off the ABC stores. They pay their employees, plus they pay for the stock, but otherwise than that, it goes through all to the school system here in Hawaii. All right, now we're going to get into the narration, a little bit about the narration. We're going to make our way to downtown city first, go past the state capitol, then up onto the Punch Bowl crater. State capitol here is unlike any other capital in the United States. Hawaii became a state in 1959, and they built the state capitol, began the construction of the state capitol approximately 1965 and completed in 1969. And the reason why I say this, unlike any other capital of continental USA, because most of your state capitals have domes on their buildings. Here in Hawaii, it is a large rectangular building, and you see surrounding the whole building is columns, and they look like palm trees that represent the palm trees of Hawaii. And also surrounding the whole building is a pool, and that represents the Pacific Ocean. On both ends of the building, you'll see a half circular cone that represent the volcanoes of the island. Now, when they go into cones in the inside, those are actually one side is the Senate chambers, the Hawaii Senate chambers, and also the other side is the Hawaii House of Representatives chambers. But that's the state capitol. You'll see the state seal hanging there, and then you'll see a statue of Father Damien. Now, Father Damien was a Roman Catholic priest. He did not try to spread the Roman Catholic doctrine on the island here. He was a humanitarian priest, and he mostly tended to the leper colony on the island of Molokai. And that's on the north side of Molokai, where he tended to the leper colony. He actually became leprous himself and passed from the leprosy. And to this day, there's approximately about 10 lepers on the island of Molokai on the north side. That's where the fenced-off community is, on the north side of the island of Molokai there. Now we're traveling on H1, H2, and H3. We'll be traveling on H201. These are this is the interstate system. I'd like to ask you a question. What other state does Hawaii go to if it's interstate? It doesn't. The interstate system began here in Hawaii under Mr. Eisenhower during World War II. He wanted to design a road system from one base to the other with limited civilian access, and it eventually became the continental U.S. interstate system. And one thing you may notice about the interstate system here in Hawaii, there are no billboards whatsoever. You don't see any billboards. You don't see billboards advertising, not even on in the apartment complexes. Not even in the apartment complexes for rent or anything like that. But otherwise than that, you'll see the wall murals and all wall murals throughout the islands here in the building. You see the familiar one at the airport. There's a whale on one side and Diamond Head on the other side. Now when we get to Pearl Harbor, you'll see the lady with the creepy hand. Now, I'm not trying to degrade the lady with the creepy hand, but I think when you see her hand raised up, and I think what they're trying to do is make her, from her forearm up, look like a palm tree, but it just doesn't look right to me, and that's just me, and you'll see what I'm talking about once we get over there to Pearl Harbor. All right, we're just about the state capitol here, and the state capitol here. We'll be passing by it, and we'll be passing by a couple other places, and then we'll go up to the Punch Bowl crater. Here on the island of Oahu, it's a far cry from the elevation, anywhere far cry from Maui and the island of Big Island. Here it's about approximately 26 to 2,800 feet, the tallest on the island. Now there are three main craters here on the island of Oahu. The most famous one is the Diamond Head crater right next to Waikiki there. People hike up to the top of it. You get a chance to go hike up there. Very beautiful view. It's a really easy to moderate hike. Takes approximately 20 to 30 minutes depending on how you set your pace. Up near the top, you may get a little winded, but it's a little more steeper, but it's really beautiful when you get up to the top of the Diamond Head crater. Now during World War II, there was a small army garrison inside Diamond Head crater called Fort Ruger, and when you hike up to the top, you're hiking up to the bunkers, the old bunkers of Fort Ruger, and that's at the top of the peak right there. There's still also a couple bunkers at the top, on the outside of the south side of Diamond Head crater there. Today, if you can hike up there. Also, the Hawaiian name for it is called La'ahi, meaning back dorsal fin of a fish. Now, the seafarers used to use Diamond Head crater as a reference point, knowing when they're getting closer to the island of Oahu. What about at nighttime? Nighttime, one of them did run aground, so they built a lighthouse right on the south side of the Diamond Head Lighthouse, or Diamond Head Crater, and that's one of 3 lighthouses you see on the island here. Now we have the second lighthouse. It's called Makapu'u Lighthouse, and that's on the far east side of the island of Oahu. And I'll get more into that as soon as we're going to view right here. I'm going to try not to give you a back there tour. Anybody know what a back there tour is? Oh, when you explain it, it's that's back there. I'm not going to try to do that, but there's the state capitol right here to our left side right here. And now the state capitol, you'll see the American flag and also the Hawaiian flag. Now the Hawaiian flag came to be the first Kamehameha king of the Kingdom of Hawaii after he united all the islands of all the island kings. Each and every island at one point had a king on it, but the Big Island king wanted to unite all the islands under one rulership, and it basically was his rulership. But he and 12,000 men went to each and every island to unite the islands, and King Kamehameha, and he conquered Maui, he conquered Lanai, and when he got to this island here on the island of Oahu, the king of this island actually resisted. Even the men resisted. 12,000 men landed from the Big Island King. They landed on the south shore of the island of Oahu, all the way from Waikiki to Pearl Harbor. It's all wetlands at one point in time, so you really basically from here you could see the ocean. And they landed on the islands. He fled to higher ground thinking he might have an advantage, but that was not the case. But he fought. The 3,000 men who fought with him actually stood their ground, and they had a battle all the way through what's called the Nu'uanu Battle, Nu'uanu Valley there. And it's called the Battle of Nu'uanu. That's where the Battle of Nu'uanu. Eventually the Big Island King did conquer all the islands, became under one rulership. And he became friends with the British. And the British gave him a gift which is called a jack. And the jack today, as we know it, would be a flag. And that was the Union Jack on the corner of the Hawaiian flag. Now there's 8 stripes make up the state count of all the islands, and that's the Hawaiian flag. Then again to our right there we have the eternal flame that is dedicated to the men and women who passed, Hawaiian men and women who passed of the military and the past wars here, World War II, the Korean conflict, also the Vietnam War, and also the Iraq War. Now these
like bamboo.
I'm sorry? Yes, it does. Yep, even at night time. Yep, 365. All right, right here too, straight ahead. These are what's called bamboo trees. Now, hidden behind this bamboo tree is a house. Now, majority of your governors, they live in, I guess what you'd say, a mansion. But this is a house to me, okay? This is the governor's first house. And it was built by Mr. John Jimenez. And the first governor of Hawaii, his name is Mr. Quinn. And this is what they built for them. The last 2 governors that I know of that lived in there was Mr. Cayetano and also Linda Lingo. And this recently has been renovated. This is called the governor's Washington Place, coming up here to our right side. Now they built a new house, a new home for the governor, and straight behind it. But this they recently had renovated. Now Now, how I know Miss Linda Lingo lived in there because I used to work for FedEx Home Delivery, and I delivered her packages to her in that home right there. That's right there. So that's a Washington place. Now we're going to fast forward into the fourth reigning monarch, king of the Kamehameha kings. His name is David Kalakaua. David Kalakaua was called the Merry Monarch, and he loved to travel the world, and he actually became friends with the King and Queen of England. He got so jealous of their royalty that they served the King and Queen, the royalty of the King, that he built his palaces after the castles of England. So they gave him a gift, which is coming up here to the right side. Not this church right here, but the next church right after. Now this is called St. Andrew's Cathedral, and it took them 90 years to build this church. This gift, all the material that you see of this church right here is all from England. Nothing from Hawaii here, and it's all from England. It took them 90 years to build. And back at that time, they did not have the Panama Canal. So they would have to sail across the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the southern tip of South America and all the way to the Hawaiian island. And it's called the St. Andrew's Cathedral. We did not live long enough to see it finished here. All right, also I'm going to mention flora and fauna along the way. 70% of the flora and fauna here in Hawaii is from all over the world. As I said, this was all wetlands at one point in time. For instance, these trees right here, these are what's called monkey pods. They have the pods that drop down, and they look like monkey fingers, so they're called monkey pod trees. They're from Indonesia. All right, back onto about the craters now. I think we're going to be going up into the Punchbowl crater right here. Now the second crater over there is in the far east side of the island. It's called Cocoa Crater. People hike up to the top of that crater on the outside of the crater. Used to be a small army garrison up there too. It was not really named, but they built a tram, kind of like a rail tram, to take up the supplies up there. But that's old news now. What's left over is the railroad ties and steps, and that's 1,049 steps up to the top of the crater up there. And it takes a lot more effort to climb that crater over on the far east side. Very beautiful view because the steepness of the steps near the top of the crater there. Now the next one is where we're going up into today, called the Punchbowl Crater. The old name for it is called Pu'uwaina, meaning hill of sacrifice. Now the first Kamehameha king had very strict rules for immigrants to come into the islands here, because the Hawaiians were so susceptible to diseases and viruses that time. So they broke any kind of rules, they were sent up to the hill of sacrifice here in this volcano. Now today it is named as the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. In 1948, Hawaii asked for permission to grant a national cemetery, military cemetery, statesman cemetery for Hawaii, and it was 1948, 1949 it became official. Now it's unlike any other cemetery. The reason why I say that is because it's inside the crater right here. It's completely full inside. They began with wooden crosses at the time, but they had a problem with that, is the termites. So they took off the wooden crosses inside and put the marble slates that you see along inside the crater here. Now the first immigrants here, as we're going up through here, this area right here, the first immigrants basically were the Chinese. After that followed the Japanese. People from the Far East, the Samoans, the Filipino, we have the New Zealanders, Australians, even a small set from Europe. And that small set from Europe is the Portuguese. And we're going to go actually through the Portuguese section right up here. You can tell by the street names up here when we go through this roadway up here. Now, if you live here in Hawaii and you go on vacation and you don't have any place to put your cat, you can go to that location straight ahead. You see that? The big screen TV movies for cats. Hey. All right. Here's the Portuguese section. You can tell by the names of it. Madeira. We have Azores. We have Cordelia, and we also have San Antonio. There's even a Portuguese church coming up here to our left, built back in the 1800s. That's called the Church of the Holy Ghost, and they still hold services for the Portuguese in that little church today.
Wow.
Now the battle, a little bit more about the Battle of New Oahu. Eventually the Big Island King, they pushed them back through that valley over to the left side right there. And all the way, they pretty much held their ground all the way to what's called the Pali Lookout. The Pali, P-A-L-I, means cliff. And the 400 men who were gone over the cliff, they basically did not want to bow down to the Big Island King. So they would rather perish than go and bow down to the Big Island King. But eventually the Big Island King did take over this island, and which became a monarch rulership of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Without skipping back and forth, back to places and that, it's actually places where we're going by right now. So back to David Kalakaua. Now after he passed, his relative sister, Queen Liliuokalani took over the Kingdom of Hawaii. She was the one where the United States overthrew the government of the Kingdom of Hawaii. They confiscated the land, took over the government. Now, along came Prince Jonah Kalani Anaole. And when he grew up, he negotiated with the United States government for the Hawaiians, what's called the Hawaiian Homestead. And he negotiated with the Hawaiians, they signed a 99-year contract where they only pay $1 a year for their land, and that's called the Hawaiian Homestead. And that was to the left with there, we'll see more of it as we come down from the crater here. It's called Papakalea. Now, to this day, there is still a waiting list for that opportunity for Hawaiians to purchase, get that opportunity for Hawaiians so they still have to build their homes, which cost money. They still have to pay utilities and taxes, otherwise not. But just for the land itself, only $1 a year. All right, to our left side, this is one of two high schools that I mentioned as we go by it. This is with the gold bleachers with the crimson colored right there bleachers. That's the home of Teddy Roosevelt High School. That's home of the Rough Riders. Now, anybody know the name of Peter Hernandez? Peter Hernandez, you may know him better as Bruno Mars. And he grew up in this neighborhood, and he went to graduated in school right there at the Teddy Roosevelt High School. You can see the famous Diamond Head crater up to the left. Also, Waikiki right there. If you're on the side road over there, on this side, you can actually see this side right here of this crater. As we go into the crater right here, you'll see the father-son representation of the names of the crater. The tallest one is the current name, which is the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. And the tall, shorter one is the Pu'upaina Punchbowl Crater. We have the American flag pole, and all the 5 seals of the armed forces are listed underneath. You can see the seals listed: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and the United States Coast Guard. Now, the reason why the half flag is like that, is half mad, is because they're giving a ceremony for one of the intraments here in the cemetery right here. And also in 1948, we only had 48 states at that time. Hawaii did not become a state until 1959. And 48 back then, when they first started to build in the cemetery here, the Chinese gave a gift of 48 banyan trees, and they're scattered all throughout the whole cemetery, but they're also lined up on both sides. These are called ghost banyan trees, and they're lighter in color than your regular banyan tree, and normally they would have vines swinging, but they keep them trimmed because of the cemetery here. Now I'm going to go jump a little bit ahead of our narration of the attack, the aftermath of the attack of Pearl Harbor. In 1943 to 44, the Japanese on the island wanted to prove to the president that they were not all the enemy. Okay, so over 12,000 Japanese signed up for the United States Army, which became the 442nd Regiment. And 442nd Regiment, at the end of the war, the 442nd Regiment had become the most decorated group in the United States Army history on September 2nd, 1945. 8,000 received medals. About 4,000 received medals of valor, and also 4,000 received Purple Hearts, their final resting places up to the left side right here. Now, every Memorial Day and also Veterans Day and the 4th of July, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, they put little mini flags on each and every one of them. During Christmas time, they put little mini wreaths on each and every one of the center posts right here. Now, last Christmas they did not do that because of the COVID. Now you'll see some of these will have these the religions, the Star of David, the crosses, and yin and yang. There's also some that will say unknown. They were unidentifiable, unknown, recognized, but they still gave him a burial here. Now they have the technology to identify the unknown with their tested DNA. So what they'll do is they'll dig up the unknown, they'll put them in a special bin. They'll take them out and take them out to Hickam Air Force Base, the science lab out there, and they'll test their DNA, and they're finally able to identify the instrument, and they'll search and locate their family and finally give them a closure. Now, as we take our left-hand turn up here straight ahead, you can see Lady Columbia. Now, the steps that you see, the people going up and down it, that's called the 72 steps to victory. On both sides of the steps are great posts. Listed on those great posts are the Hawaiian MIAs and the POW. And you can see Lady Columbia. She is the female persona of the United States. Uncle Sam is the male persona of the United States. Lady Columbia is the female persona of the United States. She's standing on the deck of the USS Arizona, and her head bowed down, her head in lower position, and Normally she would have the laurel branches held in a high position for peacetime, but because of the attack of Pearl Harbor, she's holding in a lower position. Now underneath Lady Columbia is a inscription from President Abraham Lincoln to Mrs. Bixby. Now, during the Civil War, Mrs. Bixby lost five sons in the Civil War, and President Abraham Lincoln wrote her a condolence letter. Part of that condolence letter is written underneath Lady Columbia. It goes like this: "The solemn prize must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice unto the altar of freedom." You may have seen that in the Hawaii Five-0 series. The first one also. The first one was Mr. Jack Lord, where you see him coming down from the Ilokai Hotel. And that's what the first where you hear the drums and the right? Then there's a current Hawaii Five-0. So you also may have seen Lady Columbia. I'm going to stop right here and let you get a photograph right there. And you also may have seen this in the movie Battleship. If you watch the movie Battleship, at the end of the movie, they're giving out rewards, and you can see Lady Columbia in the background. They do show a forward toward this side of the American flagpole in that movie. Anybody remember the last line of the show of Hawaii Five-0? Book comes down all right. All right. We're going to stop here for a few minutes, right here for a couple of minutes right here. I'm going to explain about the first instrument of the whole of all the cemetery right here. His name is Ernest Pyle. Ernest Pyle was from the Big Island, and he was a World War II war correspondent. That's right to our right side. And he was a World War II war correspondent. He reported back to Hawaii, all the war news back to Hawaii. And so he was killed under friendly fire. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is the one where the flowers are. His name is Ellison Onizuka. Now, Ellison Onizuka is from the town of Kailua Kona on the Big Island. And he was a straight-A student throughout school, elementary school, middle school, and also high school. After he graduated from school, he applied for the United States Air Force Academy and went into the United States Air Force. And his main course of study was flight engineering. After that, he went, after his services from the United States Air Force, he went into the NASA program. And he became the first Japanese-American astronaut. And he was one of the ones that perished in the 1986 Challenger accident. And also in 2014, they renamed Kona's airport from Kona Airport to Ellison Onizuka Airport.
There's some kind of bird up there. On the grass is kind of...
Okay, as we exit out, we saw these corner flower trees right here. They're the plumeria. Now the plumerias come in three different colors: white, yellow, and pink. There's also a rare form of plumeria which is lined up on the sidewalk as we exit out. Those rare ones are actually the ones where it's illegal to pick, like a $200 fine if you're caught picking these rare ones. They're so rare that they only have few of these the crimson color. But you see the plumeria, they grow all over the islands here, throughout Maui, all the islands here. In almost every block you can see a plumeria tree everywhere here, but other than that. Now the plumerias are the ones where the ladies identify their status. I believe it's right means they're taken, left means they're available, and center of the head meaning they're looking for an upgrade.
Put it on the center of your head.
Put it on the center. Where's the rare plumeria?
Right here, these crimson colored ones. Yes.
Rhododendron.
actual